Hi, it's Tom Hoffman with One-to-One Media, and I'm here at Pega World 16 in Las Vegas, and I'm joined today by Shep Hyken, Chief Amazement Officer at Shepherd Presentations and Customer Experience Expert, known by many. And today, Shep and I will be talking about trends that are shaping the future of customer service, as well as some of the components that are impacting customer service today. Shep, thanks so much for joining us.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks, Tom.
You know, as you're familiar with, companies have to anticipate customer needs going forward so that they're able to deliver the types of experiences that customers expect in the channels of their choosing. And I'm wondering if you could share with us where you see customer service going and where you see it, where it will be in the year 2020.
Right. So, and I know we talked a little bit about this before. I was asked a question the other day, and I'm writing an article about it. What is going to be obsolete in the world of customer service in 2020? And the first thing that hit me is that 2020 is not that far away. It's only about 3.5 years or so away. But what's trending strong right now is going to continue to trend strong, and you'll see some changes, but really what's trending the opposite direction, I don't think it'll completely go away, so it won't be obsolete, but you'll see, for example, phone support. I think that today, phone is still very prevalent, but you can see it's diminishing. 10 years ago, phone was the primary way that you picked up the phone and talked to people in the customer support area. Today, it's going toward being a secondary channel, if not even a channel that's only used as backup to all of the other channels. So I think you'll see self-service overcoming the phone, and then the phone being used as a backup. Now that said, there's always going to be people who just want to use the phone.
Sure.
And granted, it's a smaller number of people, but a perfect example of this is the airline industry. If you can think about what the airline industry did when they set up a system where you can go online and buy your ticket, find where you want to go, when you want to go, and even check in. And the number of agents that they needed to support the passengers diminished dramatically. And I believe that, there's all kinds of efficiencies there. There's cost efficiency, but there's also customer efficiency. As passengers, I remember a guy telling me, boy, Delta Airlines just did a wonderful thing. I got all the way to the gate, and I didn't have to deal with one of their employees. And I said, is that because you don't like their employees? And, no, I love their employees. I just think they've made this most incredible system. You can go online, and really that's what companies are doing. They're coming up with efficient ways to support the customer, and the backup will be phone, and of course some people still want to call the reservationist, and they'll always want to call the support agent.
Sure.
So that's a big trend I see happening. Another big one is that social media is going to become stronger and stronger, where email it's going to replace a lot of email correspondence. And the main reason is you email, it takes what apparently seems like forever, and depending on what stats and facts you look into, it could be hours, if not days, before an email is responded to. But if you post something on social media, if the company is monitoring the channel, you'll get responses back very, very quickly, within hopefully minutes, if not less than an hour. That's the ideal situation. So you'll see email become less prevalent and social pick up, because there's so many different channels that you can communicate on. And then the third big trend I see is that I love the whole idea of the chat box. And I don't know why they call it a chat box. They should call it a text box, because you're texting back and forth, right? Yeah. But what is really amazing is today, it's more efficient. A computer can answer those questions that we're texting or typing in. And if you think about it, the virtual response systems where you call and you have a computerized voice listening to what you want and many times repeating back to you what you've said and then getting you to the wrong place. When you type it in, there's going to be no mistake. And if there is an issue where the computer can't quite figure out what's going on, it will probe, ask questions, and by the way, then it will seamlessly transfer to a human to take over if it senses confusion by the customer. But I think we'll start to see a little less human interaction and a little bit more robotic, and the customer won't even know.
For sure, yeah, and I think we're seeing such progress with speech recognition capabilities, especially in the last 10 years, that we're seeing a lot of advances taking place with machine learning and AI.
Yeah, and it's as good as speech recognition is doing, think about what text recognition is. I mean, of course, somebody misspells a word, the computer can pick up on that, and it'll probably say, do you mean this? I mean, have you ever typed into Google, a question, and then you misspelled a word and it comes back, did you mean, this word?
Sure.
Wow, and that happens instantaneously, faster than a human can actually type it back.
Right. I want to go back to your point, too, about email shifting more towards social. Mm-hmm. And I wonder, as part of that, if you look at different research reports that have come out on customer expectations for the amount of time they expect to receive an email response, most people expect a response by email within 24 hours.
Right.
But they're much more demanding when it comes to social.
I believe that in my office, in my business, I think if we wait 24 hours to respond to people, and it's not so much even for customer support, it's any email from a client, I think they're going to think we're not on our game. I think people expect, they'll tolerate 24 hours. They don't expect it. I think today the expectation is faster, quicker. Literally, it should be. It depends, again, what stats and facts you're looking at, but I think several hours is still bad in my mind, but at least it's a response. We'll go back to the chat box. I was talking with somebody from a major organization that we do some business with, and he said email, the average length of time to solve a customer's problem was 12 days. Now, that doesn't mean it took 12 days to respond. They could have responded within 10 minutes, but the back and forth, and by the time the customer got back to them, it was 12 days. With chat, it's minutes.
It's a huge difference.
Huge difference.
Quantum. So, and I wanted to go back to one of the earlier point that you made about how there'll be more of a shift away from voice support to digital channels. And, it's interesting, too, that coincidentally, on the flight over here, I was doing some work and I was digging into some research, and I came across a statistic that predicted that based on current trends, we should see more customer outreach through digital channels than voice by 2019. So it sounds like we're already
heading that direction.
Yeah,
and the companies need to recognize, number one, it's very inexpensive today to create a good, its most basic level on the website, a frequently asked question with the search box, okay? That's at its basic level. But you can look into, video is just one of my favorites. YouTube is one of the best customer support engines that a company can use. You can create so many amazing how-to videos. My favorite example is when I bought this ping pong table for my daughter, and it was a German model ping pong table. I was just looking for a good ping pong table, and the salesperson said, this is the one you want. So it gets delivered in a box, not set up, and I open it up, and boy, the German people know how to manufacture things well. Lots of little parts. And, it's all laid out and going, I'm overwhelmed. And the instruction manual, by the way, was in German. But there were pictures. It still wasn't enough. So I went on Google and I simply typed in the model number and the manufacturer's name, and up came a video of exactly step by step how to put this together. There was music behind it. Oh, tranquil.
Nice.
My stress went away. But think about it. I have software programs where I have issues. I just go on YouTube and I type in, how do I do this with this software, and boom, there's a video that pops up.
Right, yeah. I mean, it's a great point, because we're seeing more of that, as well as tutorials where, if you need it, someone in customer service can walk you through an installation if you're having trouble with it.
Yeah, and by the way, that's to the point. The phone will be the backup to all of this, so someone can walk you through it. If it's on video, it's great. If it's step-by-step in a frequently asked question format or a document that you can download or print out, that's great. But if you have a problem, and this is why I don't think the phone is going to go away, you're going to be flipped over to the human side. The other thing, we started to talk a little bit about social media. And if there is an issue on social media, it may start out social. And my friend Jay Bear, who you probably know well, Jay says that social media and customer service, it's a spectator sport. Okay, think about it. And many times people think of customer service and support through social as a complaint mechanism. People complain, and then the squeaky wheel gets the oil, therefore you're going to get response. But really, I think social media customer service is engaging with the customer with positive comments that they might make, responding back to them, putting good content out there. But back to the idea that if a customer complains or needs help, it might not even be a complaint, it just means please help me. A quick response on social media usually moves the conversation to a direct message forum or a one-on-one forum. And then it might come back social when the company thanks the customer for reaching out and the customer hopefully responds positively.
Yeah, yeah, and I think it's worth mentioning too that from our perspective, one of the challenges that companies have had is applying voice analytics because it's very cumbersome. You have to you have to either identify keywords and go through a volume of recorded conversations. Whereas with, say, text analytics, if you look at social, you can pick up much more. Companies are finding it easier to filter through and pick up on trends and think ahead. All right, we're hearing this from our customers. These are some of the steps we should be taking to address them.
And that's with any complaint. But there's a couple of concepts there, and the first is the analytics of it all. Software programs are analyzing thousands of conversations that customer support reps are having with their customers. They're looking at thousands of interactions between, and maybe hundreds of thousands of interactions between customers and support centers and the other channels as well to determine what words are trigger words. And what happens is you can become really good at predicting what problems, when the customer has this problem, how they're going to respond, what's going to get them the quickest resolution. So I love that companies are taking a really proactive stance. Let's see, what was the other concept with the analytics? This is what happens, I go off on a tangent.
Yeah, well, I'd position it as voice versus text.
Right, so voice, yeah, and again, we'll start, you mentioned that text, it's easier to analyze. And no doubt, with text, you can see certain words, you can check the cadence of the conversation,
sure,
which just is amazing to me. And the companies that take advantage of this are going to be giving their customers a better experience. Here's where I was going to go. The concept of learning from all of these interactions, as soon as a customer complains, that's a red flag in my mind. And let's look at this. How often is it happening? And when I sit down with my clients, we'll sit in a room and I'll say, what are the top 10 complaints, the number 1 through number 10 complaints that you hear are out there. And then we bring in other people in the company and ask what their top 10 are. And we just see how many of them mesh up. Is the frontline support in sync with sales, in sync with marketing, in sync with even the leadership. But once we determine what these top 10 are, and that's why I love social media, as soon as you hear a complaint, and maybe you see it a second or a third time, it's time to do something about it. Figure out a way to mitigate it or eliminate it, because that's a gift that they hand you on a silver platter.
Absolutely. That's a great point. Well, Shep, thanks so much for your
Hey, man,
time
my
today.
pleasure. My
Appreciate
pleasure.
it.
It's great to be here with you. Thank you for having me.
Thanks. You too. Have a great event.
Thank you.